Hello, Grievers! Welcome back. This is actually going to be the last episode of Season 1. And with me, for the big hurrah, I have Nicole.
Hey!
And she is going to go through the 7 stages of grief and give us examples of how they have been for her over time. So let's get right into it. We have Stage 1, shock and denial. Nicole, give us an example here of what it was like being in Stage 1.
Oh, okay. Stage 1, I would say, is one of the stages that I lasted in the longest. I still have moments that, at least the shock aspect of that, affect me 10 years later, you know? But going back to the very beginning, shock definitely overcame me because losing someone to suicide is something I don't think anyone can ever prepare themselves for. And I feel like when you don't see the signs, it's almost harder, especially when you can look back and you can see the signs later.
Yeah.
It's devastating, right? And my cousin Ian, he was literally the light of the family. He could light up a room with his smile, and he hid it so well. And it was really hard to grasp that someone who is, in my opinion, so smart and so intellectual was struggling so emotionally and not able to grasp that side of life, because it is hard. Our emotions and navigating emotions is hard, as you can relate to. Going through grief is hard, and just he was only 18, so growing into an adult is hard, so just dealing with that.
Did you feel dissociated or any numbness?
At the time, I was definitely disassociated. I think I spoke in the last podcast about just feeling like a zombie, and feeling completely numb, and just like the world was moving in slow motion, and everything around me was in slow motion. I couldn't understand how people were just continuing their day-to-day tasks while something like that had happened. And yeah, I do remember um, handling his loss in a different way, I would say. Going back to his visitations and his funerals and just trying to keep a smile on my face and keep the energy a little more on the positive side, because I know that's what Ian would have wanted. He was a jokester, he was a laugh, and he would have wanted that presence there. And I remember one of his friends saying to me, you can break down, you can let go. And it wasn't until we were, yeah, laying his casket into the ground and we were saying our final goodbyes that I hugged his casket, put my head on his head, and just broke down, just like literally sobbed and just was like, I don't even remember what I was saying, but my mom apparently had sent my cousin down to pick me up and get me off, peel me off of the casket, basically. And I think that was the moment that I kind of let the shock fade for a little bit.
Well, and then that leads into Stage 2, pain and guilt. Kind of when that shock does fade, it leads into that more intense feeling.
Yeah, and that was definitely a really tough stage. I mean, that was, I say that shock and grief was a stage that lasted the longest, but honestly, guilt was one that really lasted a long, long time too. I don't think it was until this past year that I kind of let go of the guilt of, again, speaking about things that I spoke about before, but just like the last time I saw him, I felt that something was off, and I never asked him if he was okay or how he was. And that's something that I guilted myself for so long, because I knew that something was wrong and I never asked. And I carried that with me for a long time, and I just had to let go of that and um, understand that even if I did ask, it might not have made a difference. Like, I didn't know the depth of his pain. So even in one conversation, I still wouldn't have probably grasped the depth, because he
Mm-hmm.
might have just scratched the surface.
Do you forgive yourself?
I had to forgive myself, and there's moments that I don't. There's moments that I definitely slip back into that mentality of, like, I should have been there for him more. I did feel it. I felt that something was wrong and I should have asked, and that's a lesson that I took with me, though. Like, I tried learning from that, and, like, as I said in the last podcast, asking people when I see them if they're okay. But then again, through life, I think I asked too much and did annoy too many people, so I kind of stopped asking a little bit. So
It's
I don't
always
know.
good to ask, Nicole.
Yeah.
People want you to ask more than they don't, so
Yeah. And those people that make me feel bad about it, well,
just don't ask them.
yeah.
So, from pain and guilt, that leads us into stage three, which is anger and bargaining. Do you have some examples for us for this stage, Nicole?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by bargaining, so can you kind of give me an example of that?
Bargaining, as wellbeings.ca puts it, is more or less you're trying to reverse the loss. Like you're appealing to reverse it. For example, I would do anything to see them again.
Yeah, okay, so going with the anger came on fast, strong, and fierce.
Ooh,
I was very angry with him, angry with myself, and just overall not a pleasant person to be around, I would say.
at least you can admit that.
Yeah, well, like, I was angry at a lot of people in my life because I felt like they didn't reach the expectations that I had of being there emotionally for me. And I was just, yeah, it was a very hard time. And I held on to that for a long time too. But of course, I had anger from other areas of my life. So it all intertwined. Yeah, I was very angry with Ian and the choice that he made, because I doubted our relationship. It made me doubt our connection that we had, and it made me feel like it was only one-sided, that the connection that we had was just something that I felt. It wasn't something that was shared.
Right.
But looking back now, I know that wasn't true. And yeah, I was very angry with him for leaving me alone with my family because they can be very dramatic at
Yep.
times.
Aren't
I
they
know we all
all?
have, yeah, those kind of families, but because he was my person, he was my sidekick, and he just made me feel so much love and joy just by walking in a room, and he could just make me forget about everything and just live in the moment and cherish the moment being with him. And that's something I'll always value about our relationship.
He
And
was a gift.
he was a gift, absolutely. And I was angry that I didn't have that in my life anymore. As selfish as that sounds, and as selfish as
No.
it was, and I was angry at myself for not asking those things that I wanted now to ask but should have asked. And that's probably where the bargaining came in, because I guilted myself, and if I could go back, I would have. But also, like, I felt,
Take your time. This one's tricky.
yeah, I
I had
felt
I had a
like
tough time with this one.
I wanted to be with him still, in a sense, like, I just felt,
If maybe there was something you could do to see him again,
yeah.
or
And I never really understood mental illness until then, and I never really fully understood that I struggled myself, and it was like losing Ian just triggered so many emotions and so many things that I didn't realize I was struggling with. Like, my anxiety became crippling, and, like, it still is hard sometimes with my anxiety.
that leads us into stage four then, which is
Yeah.
depression. And this stage
Yes.
should say depression and anxiety.
Yes, definitely. Definitely, because I really, yeah, my anxiety was through the roof. It was hard to just do anything. And I don't know if I mentioned this in the last podcast. I think I did, but I felt like I reverted completely back to like a 10-year-old child
Yeah, yeah, for
in
sure.
like a 22-year-old body. Like, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't feed myself. I couldn't clean up after myself. I couldn't take care of myself, and I was really struggling with that depression, and that lasted, oh my gosh, until I would even say like 2 years ago, like I was struggling so badly with depression to the point that I've started to understand why he made the decision that he did. And it's a tough place to be. It is
Definitely.
a very tough place to be. And like anyone who's out there who's struggling, who's in that place, like just know that you've got this. You have
Hmm.
the ability and the strength to get yourself out of it. And there
There's
are
light at
resources,
the end of the tunnel.
like there's like you can do it. We're products of that. Shelby and I here are like,
Hmm.
so it was a really, really hard time, and it really just took a shift of mindsets for me to finally be able to let go of the anger as well as the anxiety and the
Yeah.
depression.
I will say I'm very proud of you because one of the symptoms of this stage here is like complete social withdrawal.
And I did.
Can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, I had high expectations, I think, of a lot of my friends and my family members for the way that they supported me. And I learned later on that, not everyone can be there in the ways that you think they need to be there, and that lowering your expectations is something that you definitely need to do, even when you're grieving, and especially when you're grieving, because other people's lives can't go on hold just because yours is shattered. And in those times, I did hurt some people because I was selfish with my grief, and some friendships, did end. And luckily, some of those friendships have come back into my life, and I'm so grateful for that. But, it really made me reflect on myself and reflect on how your expectations can really skew your perception of what a friend should be, or what a partner should be, or what a parent should be. And sometimes you
Yeah.
have to drop those and just
Because,
accept it for who they are and what they're providing you.
or else you will isolate yourself
Yeah,
and withdraw from people
yeah.
because
And
you won't want to deal with it.
I think I spent
It's
a
not
lot of
that
time
healthy.
around you because you were spiritual like me, and honestly, I felt close to Ian when I spent time with you too, because I think in that time you helped me stay connected to him through spirituality and like through just being you. And so
That's nice. I'm glad that I could
yeah,
help that way
it was a
because
a
that's the
tough
spiritual
time,
side
but I did
helps.
definitely isolated myself. I was alone for a long time, and it was definitely tough, but well needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you, like me, grew up experiencing some of that paranormal stuff, which,
Yeah.
like I mentioned in the last podcast, is kind of what helped me get through the stages of grief because just having that exposure to the
Yeah.
unknown and even to death at a young age.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know, your brain just like learns to adapt to that. And we also grew up watching like crime and stuff like that at young
That and
ages,
like
so who knows what.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
either way, like the paranormal piece has definitely helped me get through some of those stages. So spirituality for the win
Yeah, at least for us.
for us. Those symbols and signs and everything else. Thank you for elaborating on that. Because social withdrawal, like isolation, I notice that's such a big part of depression
It
because
was
you're thinking differently, right?
it was more
Like,
the social anxiety I was feeling, to be honest. Like the social anxiety, it was so hard for me to feel like I could just be normal again after such a big loss, and just feel like I wasn't just breaking on the inside every time. And I forgot to even have like how to have a normal conversation, and just like who I was without that loss. I had to
mm-hmm.
find myself again, if that makes sense, because like that loss in a sense kind of becomes you.
Yeah.
And
Well, you have to work through it,
I had to
right? So you
navigate
have to
all of
take it
that
on in a sense.
while continuing just to function and act like everything's okay, because life goes on, and I think
Yeah.
that's the hardest part, is that life goes on and moves so quick, and you don't really always have the time to.
That's why we have to be kind to people because you never know what anyone's going through.
And to ourselves. Yeah.
Yes. All right, that leads us to stage 5, which is the upward turn. This is the light at the end of the tunnel where you start to see hope. Do you remember a time in which this
I
presented
do.
itself to you?
I do. But again, it was like a spiritual moment. So those who don't fully believe in that, then I'm sorry, but you don't have to listen. Um
But maybe you should.
So I was meditating, and I was never fully been good at meditating. I was practicing, and I felt strongly that Ian was not in the light and that he was suffering from where he was. And I, through meditation, just wanted to cross him over because I felt like he wasn't in a good place. His spirit, his soul, whatever you want to believe, his energy, it wasn't in a good place. And I remember someone saying they'll tell you when they leave, they'll say goodbye. Long story short is we had an interaction with Jesus, and Ian himself was very ashamed, and he was ashamed that Jesus wouldn't forgive him. And I looked at him and I said, you have to forgive yourself in order for him to forgive you. And then he says, I want to be forgiven. And I said, then forgive yourself. He says, okay. And he forgave himself. And then him and Jesus hugged. And I remember angels surrounding and literally using their wings as a chariot and lifting Ian up on the wings. And he turned around with the biggest smile on his face and he waved, see ya.
Oh, that's so powerful.
And they carried him off.
Wow.
So that
You're
was
giving me
my,
tears here.
I know, it was a very
I'm like visualizing it. It's very
exactly.
beautiful.
So it was like light was all around, like golden light, like just this beautiful light,
Wow.
white light, like white clouds. Like it was so beautiful. And I think in that moment I felt that he was okay, and that kind of made me realize, okay, he's good. And ever since I haven't felt him in the same way. Like before he crossed over, it was like he was like literally standing behind me. He was right there, but now
Mm-hmm.
it's more like I see him in those signs, and I see him in, and I feel him in a different way. So I don't know. It's a weird thing to talk about because, as I said, some of you might not believe in that stuff, but it was an experience for me, an experience I'll always cherish. So yeah, it was just a weird series of events that led up to why felt I needed to meditate with him. He came through a really angry channel through my mom, and yeah, it was just a very weird experience that kind of led up to it. So I was just like, I'm gonna do what I can and try to use my spiritual knowledge and what I can do and try to just do what I can. And that brought me peace, at least. So
Right.
whether it's real or not to some people, it brought me peace. So
Did you feel like a sigh of relief, like a weight
yeah,
off of your chest
yeah,
after that?
yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, because it was his smile, it was his hair, it was him. It was like
Let the hope pour back
yeah,
in. Woo!
yeah,
Thank you for sharing that. That's
yeah, of
that's a very
course,
powerful story. Now we are on to stage 6. We're getting to the end. Wow.
right,
Look at
flying.
you go. Working. You've done a good job getting through your grief, my friend.
Well, it's taken some years, but
As it does though, like
absolutely,
it's almost like
absolutely.
you need a couple years per stage in reality. Like
Oh, of
especially when
course.
you're working and you have a
Life.
busy life, like you don't have all that time to focus on your emotions and stuff like that,
Some
right? So
people, it takes a lifetime to deal with their grief, right? So,
so be patient with yourself. Just be patient. Stage 6, reconstruction and working through. Do you need a little introduction to this one?
oh, I
Or do
think
you...
I grasp it a
Okay.
little bit.
The mic is yours.
Oh, okay. So basically, what it's like, I would say, yeah, it's a stage that it took me a really long time to get to. I would say 8 years out of the 10 to just go out and start doing the things that I really enjoy doing again, going for hikes, just spending time in nature, going camping, that kind of stuff. It took a long time to feel like I could just go out and do things on my own and go out and like took a long time for that anxiety to go away of just going out and doing stuff.
Right.
So I started about 2 years ago, just starting to heal from the trauma of that, heal from other trauma, and I think along the way, relationships have kind of come in and distracted that process a little bit. But I think right now I'm kind of back in this phase of reconstructing and working through things and
Can
finding myself again.
can you give our listeners a couple examples of what you're doing in this work
Um,
through phase?
Nature, of course, I love spending time in nature. It's my peaceful place, going out and just hearing the sounds of nature, the sights of nature, and being mindful, right? Like being in nature.
Do you run? Are you walking in nature?
I'm hiking usually in nature.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll take time just to sit and just observe things around me. Apparently being in nature is one of the easiest ways to be mindful because you're using all of your senses at once, right? So you're being present, and
Yes.
I love that, and it just brings me so much peace, and I feel like it just helps me ground. Like there's so many things that I can get into. I'm a tree hugger. Let's be real.
It reminds me of that time we went over to that one trail. You found that frog. Was it a frog? No, it was
Turtle.
a turtle. Sorry, you found that
And
turtle.
I walked it all the way down to
Yeah,
that.
because we're literally up on a hill and the water is not anywhere near where
Yeah.
we were. And we're like, shh, there's no way this poor guy is
Yeah.
gonna get to good water. Like, I don't even think there was a puddle.
No, we were, yeah. So I walked it
So
down to the
she took him.
water. It was a pretty long walk too. I was surprised that thing didn't bite me or anything,
It
but
was a little guy, wasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
But
Anyway,
we were
so
trying to save the turtle. He had a better chance by the water than up on a hill.
yeah. Back to this thing.
Like
So
to know how he
working
got
through
there.
things, some of my coping mechanisms, writing, timed writing is definitely something that I really benefited from. So if people don't know what that is, you just set a timer and you just write, and you're not allowed to scratch out any spelling mistakes, anything. You just go until that timer stops, and you really get an in-depth look of how you're feeling. If you don't know what to start with, it's how am I feeling today? How am I doing today? And you can start with that and just keep going, and you're not allowed to stop until that timer goes off. And that helped me take a look at myself, and then I just started writing. And then as we were talking, just you and I earlier, like I learned the technique of videotaping yourself and talking to yourself. As no, it sounds crazy, but
Kind of like this.
kind of like this, exactly. But you're filming yourself, and instead of talking to Shelby, I'd just be talking to myself throughout these emotions. And it really helps you gain an introspective look at who you are and the things that you've been through. And it just helped me work through so much just doing that. If you don't feel comfortable videotaping yourself, record yourself, like develop that friendship and that relationship, that connection with yourself. At least for me, that helped. So that's some of my coping mechanisms. Reading books, because it takes me out of my reality, it puts me in someone else's.
Mm,
And
books.
unfortunately, my bad habit, reality TV, because their lives are so much
There is
more fucked
nothing
up
wrong with that.
than
A new
mine.
season of Love is Blind is airing on February 14th.
Oh
Woot
yeah,
woot! This is
advertising.
not a paid advertisement. Those are
Yeah.
some really good strategies, seriously. And
So
especially the one writing with a
definitely,
timer. I
yeah.
do not think I would be able to remain focused that whole time.
Try it.
Like,
Honestly,
that's a
start
literal
low,
challenge.
like with 5 minutes. Like you don't have to
I think I'd need to start with 30 seconds and
then
build
do
my way
that.
up. But no, that's a good one.
Yeah, I learned that actually in high school. That was one of the techniques that I took away from high school, and yeah, and then it just helped me open the door to just writing in general. Because
Right.
once you start feeling comfortable with a pen and a piece of paper, you get your thoughts flowing.
Sometimes when I'm going through my stuff, I'll find a note that you'd written me.
Aww.
Yeah, like recently, I grabbed something from my dad's and I opened up this book and a note from you flew out of it. Hey,
Aww.
Shelbster. I'm like, oh my god, no one's called me that in so long.
That's who you have to, when you're feeling low and stuff, you gotta go back. Sometimes I bring out my old nickname Kicks from college. I'm like, come on, Kicks, you can do this. You gotta be like, bring back the one nickname that you resonate with, and be like, you got this, Shelbster, or whoever it is. Like,
Good
you
old
know,
nicknames.
bring out the kid name, and yeah.
Right? All right, stage 7. We are at the end.
Woohoo!
Acceptance and hope. Tell me about this. Are you here? Are you working on it still?
Yeah, I
What
mean,
is the deal with this stage for you?
I got to the point in my life where I was tired of being antisocial and detached and isolated. I got to the point in my life when I was tired of letting my emotions and anger control me. And I got tired of having other people use my emotions against me. And, like it took, honestly, I'm not going to lie, it took some really hard moments for me to have to accept this. And it was people not really being the nicest and the most supportive of for me in my time of grief. It was people that, like just some things that they said, and like just their lack of understanding, I would say,
Yeah.
made me feel like I had to get over the loss. And that forced me to. Um, I was told to toughen up on his anniversary because I was crying and stuff like that. And things like that do make you harden a little bit and make you stronger. So I would say at the beginning, I was forced to kind of accept it, but in time, I was just sick of living with those negative emotions.
She had enough.
I had enough of letting that like that negative like that darkness, that pain, that anger, like all of these negative emotions controlling my life. Like even the good times, it felt like there was always a cloud. I could never fully enjoy the good times, you know, and I was tired of it. So it's like it was time for me to take back my own life and just accept that like it is what it is, and I need to remember Ian for who he was. And he was, like, as I said, the light of the room, the funniest guy I've ever met, and like the biggest smart ass I've ever met. Don't get me wrong, he was literally the biggest smart ass, but like most intelligent, and like just I just think about the good times now,
Yeah.
and I can smile when I think about him instead of cry when I think about him. And I think that is a huge sign of like, okay, I've accepted, and or at least starting to accept for some
Yeah.
people, you know.
Well, and two, like just being able to accept as well that life is going to be different. Grief is always going to be there and life will look a little bit different, but you have the ability to steer it in whatever direction you want, right? And that's all we have for season 1. So I thank you very much, Nicole, for coming on here and sharing your experience with the 7 stages of grief.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I hope that anyone out there who's struggling can relate to it. And just remember that you've got this. No matter what, you'll get through it.
You will. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this first season. It's been interesting doing this, to say the least. And I'll be back. I'll be back. I'm not sure what I have to bring next, but I'll be back. Until next time, thank you for joining.